All right, so we are on the air, and we are on that Ish with Ish and Joey. And my name is Flavius Maximus at your service.
How's it going?
It's going well. How's it
Yeah,
going with
we
you?
got the brilliant Flavius Maximus, who is often the voice of reason. We
Often,
have
but not always.
Joey, our brilliant political guru, as well as super dope freelance writer. We
Thank
have
you,
Issue
sir.
X. So I want to get right into it. All right. I wanna kind of set the stage here. We're gonna cover. So recently, I saw a report. I can't pinpoint it. That stated that actually it was on the news the other morning. Stated that 2018 and 2019 were at least publicly and in the media or in the media or what's visible were the highest percentage of anti-Semitic statements and or comments, at least publicly broadcast throughout 2018 and 2019. Like, those are just big years for anti-Semitism becoming like a public thing where people kind of said anti-Semitic things or spoke in regards to anti-Semitism.
Hang on,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I gotta cut you off for a second. This is really bad timing, I know, but I have to. I was just told that I have to go downstairs and relocate there. So maybe I don't know if you guys want to just want to start again, or if we could just edit it together, or
We could just
or
pause.
what.
Yeah,
What?
we can just pause it. We'll find a way to edit it.
Okay,
So
cool. Yeah,
just
give me like 2 minutes. I'll be back. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. So I've unpaused. You're talking
No,
about.
no, you're fine.
Oh, well, I've unpaused it. So we're going again. We're recording.
Well, no, because
That's okay.
I don't want to. I would rather you pause it. I don't want to put this on.
All right, we're on.
Okay, so we're back on that ish. Again, we have Flavius Maximus, our voice of reason. We have our super political guru, Joey, and I'm Issue X. And we're talking
Voice
about
of
anti-Semitism.
controversy. Issue X, the
Ah.
voice of controversy.
There you have it.
The
So
blunt voice.
we're talking about anti-Semitism, and I was kind of bringing everybody up to speed on something that I heard the other day in regards to 2018 and 2019 being the year of people just publicly expressing anti-Semitic views and thoughts and what have you. And so we have Joey, and we're going to get into a conversation. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about everything from Nick Cannon's comments on Cannon's class with Professor Griff to Black and Jewish relations in America to whatever else we kind of happen to come across during this dialogue. So Joe.
Yeah.
So you said something recently on social media that interested me. It kind of sparked my interest. You said that there is a difference between being anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. Could you elaborate? Could you go into that? Could you break that down for us?
Yeah, I think that Israel is a state which is obviously defined as a Jewish state, and all of their policies are based around the idea of maintaining a permanent Jewish majority. And that's something I fundamentally have a problem with, because fundamentally it's racist. I mean, it leads to Palestinians who, within living memory, their grandparents were sort of forced to leave the country at one point during the al-Nakba in 1948, and Israel would extend the right to someone like me, who is of Jewish descent, to go live there. I mean, they would pay me to go they would pay me to go live there. Like, when you make Aliyah, I believe you get a housing stipend when you first move, and basically I have the right to return and go visit, even though my ancestors have probably not lived in Israel for close to 1,500 years. My most recent ancestors came from Eastern Europe, from Poland and the Ukraine, and so I really think it's unfair. Or I don't consider myself a Zionist, because at this point in history, being a Zionist means you have to continue supporting Israel as a Jewish majority state, and that's something I do not support. And I really am disturbed by people who conflate Israel with Jews, or who conflate whether one is anti-Semitic or not based on their support for Israel. Like when I see people on the far right, people like Steve Bannon who support Israel, you have evangelicals in this country, you have someone like Viktor Orban in Europe who is explicitly anti-Semitic, yet Netanyahu makes an alliance with him, and none of them, and to right-wing Zionists, to people who support Israel, that's all that matters. They couldn't care less about the fact that they basically hate Jews. And I guess what I just find maddening is the fact that they have less of a problem with that than they do with someone like Jeremy Corbyn, who just was very critical of Israel, but was not at all anti-Semitic, and they basically used it to destroy him. Or they'll call Ilhan Omar an anti-Semite because she made a few poorly worded tweets years ago. And frankly, I think calling her an anti-Semite is just racist. So they're all anti-Semites. Not to mention all of my leftist friends who are anti-Zionist, who are many of whom are not Jewish, yet are some of the most courageous people that will go toe-to-toe in the street, risk their lives fighting Nazis. According to right-wing Zionists, they're all anti-Semitic, and I would be considered a self-hating Jew, and I just really find that obscene. And I also think it's dangerous to conflate Jews with Israel, because that's part of what legitimizes attacks on Jews. Like about 4 or 5 years ago, there was an attack in France, where an attack on a French daycare where some children were killed, and that attack was justified by the attackers as an attack on Zionism, because they see Zionism and Jews as synonymous. So it really infuriates me when I see people who are just oblivious to fascism and really, and really only can see and really just can't see the problem with the idea of maintaining a permanent Jewish majority state, and they treat anti-Zionism or non-Zionism as an illegitimate position. And I have problems with the left also. I think there are a lot of people on the left who are also oblivious to anti-Semitism and sometimes outright tolerate it. And I think they oftentimes will just reinforce the right-wing Zionists who they'll provide just enough evidence. And not all Zionists are right-wing. I mean, some of them are basically center-left. So I want to try to be charitable, and that's why when I'm talking about this, I want to be very careful about what I say, because this is a very serious and delicate issue, and I recognize that my views on Israel are not universal, and I think there are other valid and legitimate opinions on the issue. But basically, I just have a problem with how this is discussed in the mainstream, and we could get more into some of the problems that the left has with this issue. But that's basically my 2 cents on why I don't believe that to criticize Israel or even to disagree with the concept of Zionism is inherently anti-Semitic.
Okay, so how would you define Zionism? for the viewing audience, and how would you separate Zionism from just, being Jewish and Jewish people?
Well, Zionism is the ideology of Jewish self-determination, the belief that Jews have the right to have their own homeland in which they are the majority. And I'll be straight with you. There's other people who could discuss this with more authority than me. I'm not an expert, but that's how it's commonly understood today, and that's distinct from Judaism, because Judaism is a religion, and it's an ethnicity with an additional religion. Like, I am not religiously Jewish at all. I still.
So would it be safe or fair to say that you're ethnically Jewish but not
I am, yeah, and
religiously
yes,
Jewish?
yes, I am ethnically Jewish. I'm on my mother's side, and that's how it's defined. Of course, going by rabbinical law, in which Judaism is matrilineal, but that's how some people define Judaism. Others take a more broad definition, where anybody who has some Jewish ethnicity is Jewish, but generally patrilineal Jews have to formally convert if they want to be religiously Jewish. I wouldn't have to. I mean, I have no real interest in being religiously Jewish, so that's a bit unfair, but that's a whole separate issue. But basically, Jews are people who are sort of descended from this one tribe, and it's in the Middle East, obviously, and it's a tribe with a religion on top of it. But you aren't not Jewish if you're not religious, because it is very much an ethnicity. And
just so you know, we have less than 10 minutes.
Okay, so are we gonna then open another one after that?
Yeah, we are. There's some
Definitely.
other things I
Definitely.
want to get into, but I want to give you the floor, because I think it's important that we have this discussion and we clear up some things. But first, I want to just get an understanding of what it is, and I don't even know if I'm phrasing this right, which is why I'm glad you're here, to be Jewish, specifically by ethnicity, in the current landscape with various people of some sort of fame making what can be considered anti-Semitic statements and the such. And I want to kind of just make sure we get an understanding and get it out there about what it means to be Jewish, and then we'll go into some of these statements. I don't know if you watched the Nick Cannon video today. I know you posted it, so we'll get into that, but I just kind of want to give you the floor, since we have 10 minutes, and obviously anything that Flavius may want to interject with, or question, ask as well.
Great. Okay.
So,
yeah. I'm sorry. Did you want to ask something after that?
No. Go on.
Okay. Yeah. I did see. I don't know. I did watch part of the Nick Cannon video when I was preparing to go on the air today, when he was talking to the guy from Public Enemy, and I may have missed the crucial remarks, but I think I saw them getting into it, and I got the basic idea of what they were saying. And from what I've heard, I didn't get a chance to watch Nick Cannon's video with the rabbi, but from everything I've read, it seems like his apology was very sincere, and like, I could tell the difference between a sincere and an insincere apology. So I think that people should be given another chance when, like, they say something that's a little bit ignorant, to prove that they were maybe just misguided a little. If someone is willing to listen and willing to change, I'm all for giving them another chance. And I think
it's interesting, and I don't want to be an apologist, but it's there is this interesting point that many Black people in particular, I don't even think they understand what it means to be anti-Semitic. And that's not me making an apology. It's just kind of what it is. You know what I mean? There are a lot of Black people that in many cases, we just conflate being Jewish with being white. And I think it just comes from And you know, I believe that in certain echelons of the Black community there is an understanding, but from a broad perspective, I think it just comes from a lack of understanding, you know, a lack of communication, you know, with Jewish people. You know, it has been said that Jewish people and Black people have worked closely together. It's been demonstrated in history, you know, especially, you know, concerning civil rights in the 60s. You know what I mean? You can see instances, and there are cases where Jewish people have worked closely with Black people. But, you know, the modern generation is so far removed from that, you know what I mean, that I think the layman, the average Black person, doesn't remember that close alliance or partnership that we had with Jewish people. And, you know, we're at this place where we possibly just conflate Jewish people with white people. So then we make these kind of broad sweeping generalizations, you know, when we're talking about, you know, certain aspects of white supremacy, right? We find ourselves putting Jewish people under that same umbrella. When I say
That's
we, I'm not speaking about me, but
Right, I
you know,
got you.
That's very interesting that you said that, because in the conversation with the rabbi, Nick Cannon brings up several times that he has a unequivocal problem with white supremacy, which he'll never apologize for, but he definitely apologized for conflating, uh, white folks and Jewish folks, and he
well, that's
apologized for
actually
any
what
of
he
that.
did in his video, right? Remember, remember he actually conflated,
Yeah,
you know, Jewish people with white people, and he put it all under the same umbrella.
same umbrella, and then also, in trying to go against capitalism, and like there's this whole mix of conspiracy theory, like there's the whole Illuminati thing. And I actually had a Jewish friend talk to me about this a few years ago.
Flav, not to cut
And
you off, keep track of the time.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
go on.
always.
We're
um
416.
yeah, so I had a Jewish friend talk to me about the Rothschild thing being one of the anti-Semitic comments, and I didn't understand what he meant at the time, because I had never heard of it used in that way. I had just heard, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, like any names of like rich, powerful, you know, white men who have enough power to like make decisions, right? And like so it was thrown in with like the Illuminati, which to my understanding had nothing to do with Jewish people. And then, conspiracy theorists throw in Masons and like stuff that's like gets farther and farther away from what they're actually talking about. So I think some of it is like there is this conflation, and some of it's just like ignorance, but some of it's just like they don't I don't think he had any understanding of that when he mentioned it. Like he didn't think he was repeating any anti-Semitic talking points. Like he literally mentioned the Illuminati and groups that are perceived to have power. Now, where he messed up was where he specifically did mention Jewish folks controlling the media and like all those anti-Semitic tropes, and that's what
Well,
he
yeah, he
ended up
he touched
apologizing
on
for.
popular conspiracy, right? Like Bilderberg groups and 13 families, and you know, he went there. You know what I mean? Like he
Uh-huh.
went, you know, he was name dropping, you know, Jewish people, and he put it under, you know, a white supremacy umbrella. Well, he didn't even really put it under a white supremacy umbrella. He kind of, you know, from my perspective, it was kind of like white inferiority hidden in the guise of white supremacy, because he kind of you know, went on this tangent about melanin being, you know, the sought after thing. And you know, we'll get into that in the next segment. But
Yeah.
and again, you know, Well, yeah, we'll get into it in the next segment.
Yeah, what was your take on that, Joey? What was your take on that?
I want to what you said.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there, and first I want to respond to something Ish was saying though, and Ish, you were talking about like the problems with Black and Jewish relations and how they have deteriorated because a lot of Black people perceive Jews as white. I think that's, in my experience, that hasn't only been a Black problem. That's also a problem with white leftists who are not Jewish and oftentimes are very racially conscious but oblivious to anti-Semitism because they also see Jews as white, and thus they feel like while they very much have to address their internalized racism, they don't have to address their internalized anti-Semitism. And these are often the people who will get very involved in either Black Lives Matter, pro-Palestinian activism, and will oftentimes unconsciously end up repeating a lot of viciously anti-Semitic tropes. And I think that Jews are perceived as white now because in many cases Jews do have white privilege, but obviously many Jews also are not white, and in many cases it's contextual. Like people who look more
less than 30 seconds.